There are a lot of big projects going on in this district that I think will require the leadership role of the next congressman from here. We have the redevelopment of South Weymouth Air Base called Southfield on the northern part of it. The middle part, we have Plymouth Rock Studios. We were at the Plymouth Chamber of Commerce before here. And you folks on the Cape have a very important infrastructure issue ahead of you, which is what to do, how to handle and convert the wastewater management aspect. It's projected to be a $5 billion infrastructure issue. So the next congressperson is going to have to play a very important leadership role in these issues and others. Okay, I got two people asleep in the back, so I'm going to open it up to questions.
Poke him.
No, that's all right.
Anyway,
That's perfect.
All right.
That's my cue to stop talking and get a little more interactive.
All right.
So, does anyone have any questions? And be happy to try to answer them. About anything, you know, about running, wanting to run. And let me say this. I encourage any of you who ever think about running for office to run. If you think about it, then do it. You don't have to be perfect to run for office. In fact, nobody who does is. We're all humans, remember that. So don't think that you don't have enough experience or you did something stupid when you're in high school or, geez, is that going to come back to haunt me? Just do it. Just do it. If you're thinking about it, do it. If you don't want to run for office, but you want to have an impact on an election, get a bumper sticker, work on somebody's campaign, hold a sign, make phone calls, talk to somebody. It all matters, it's all important, it all works. You folks are here at the Harwich High School. I saw you received a great award from U.S. News, and that doesn't happen without you folks, but without your teachers and members of the community who have worked hard to make this a good learning environment for you. And that's terrific. That award, you should all be very proud of that. Lots of people played a role in receiving that award. And so don't ever think that whatever you do doesn't make a difference. It does, at every level. Sorry, go ahead. Anyone?
You guys, she's actually already answered a couple of questions we had, our prepared questions. So rather than even call, I even numbered them, but I'm not going to pay attention to any of you that feels like wants to ask one of those questions, just go ahead. Or if any of you else has a different question.
Yeah, and don't go from the sheet. I mean, if something I said, you know, gets you to think about another question. And one of the things I forgot to mention, my cousin Timmy Lewis is an assistant coach of your hockey team. I don't know if any of you know him.
Oh,
But,
yeah, he quit.
Hockey players? Did he quit? Yeah.
He's coaching nonsense.
But he coached last year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
He quit.
go ahead.
While they're thinking, I thought I would just throw out there, as you probably know, that Tip's Grave is one of our main tourist attractions.
Oh, is that right?
Right down in Mount Pleasant. And I know I don't necessarily travel in normal circles, but all my friends who come here, the immediate thing they want me to do is take them over to Tip's Grave so they can pay their respects.
If you haven't read the book Man of the House, it's a great read, and it's, you know, it's important and relevant and interesting for a whole host of reasons.
It's on our summer reading list.
Okay, there you go. It's a great book, and like I said, I had the great fortune of having to know him and work for him, and great lessons. And his sort of famous saying is that all politics is local, which we just touched upon. And he tells a great story about how when he first ran for office, that he lost his first election, and that he asked his neighbor, you know, she said that she had voted for his opponent, and he said, why? I've known you my whole life. And she said, Tom, you never asked. You never asked. So it is important to ask. Before I forget, for those of you who are registered, I would ask for your vote next Tuesday. For those of you who are not, if you like me, go home and tell your parents, siblings, please. I would very much appreciate your vote and their vote next Tuesday. But Tip also in that book, which is very, very good, and I should go back and review it myself, he has 10 poems or sayings that he always memorized in the event that he was ever asked to speak, that he would always have something to say or be able to draw from those 10 sayings or stories. But he was He was very well respected, very well liked, had the ability to work across geography, gender, and party lines, and that's a very important aspect of governing in a legislative body. And I have a demonstrated ability to do that, and largely probably thanks to him and being able to observe that as a young person. You know, a legislative body is very different from an executive branch of government or a dictatorship, as you all know and have studied. You have to have the ability to bring divergent interests around a table and to work with people across party, gender, and geography lines. And that's what I think is not working very well in Washington. And I have personally, as a candidate, I believe I have a demonstrated ability to do that. And I think that's an important quality to have and skill set. I'm pausing because I see a young man who extended way back there, and my shoulder just went out looking at you. With that reach. Do you pitch? No? You should. You got great range. So, yeah, no, he was a great man, and we should all learn a lot from him. And interestingly enough, he said later on after he retired in interviews that he doesn't think he could have had the career in this day and age, you know, which back then was 15 years ago, that he had starting in the 50s. And the media being the big part of that. Media, I didn't touch on that. The media is very interesting, the role they play in campaigns. This particular race has shut me out, the Boston media has shut me out of the race. They've only had the Democratic and Republican nominees. And it's business. They've manipulated it to the point where it's all about ratings, it's about their money, their advertising, their bottom line dollars. It's not about educating their listenership or reporting the news. It's about manipulating it to affect their bottom line business dollars, which has been a discouraging part of this race for me. So we were shut out of an NECN debate. You know, we did everything we could to talk to Browdy. They said, no, we just want this dynamic. They want to set up like a boxing match, and it's about business, and we made a business decision. Okay. We went to the studio anyway and sort of a quiet protest, let them know we were here, and that we were very disappointed in their decision. We did get their attention on it. The PR director was out there. We had a little press conference with the print media afterwards. But again, the ironic twist of it is we think it actually worked to our advantage because the boxing match dynamic did not serve either of the nominees very well. And then there's a whole host of in-district media, I think, that took umbrage with the Boston media. So there's certain competitiveness within the industry that suggested that the in-district media, I think, took a little umbrage about the fact that an out-of-district media wanted to come in and sort of dictate and control and manipulate the final say in the race. So I would suggest that, you know, in terms of life in general and campaigns in particular, if you experience a bump, don't get too discouraged with it. You know, sometimes there's a silver lining. Every coin's got two sides to it, and try to you know, figure out how you can turn it into a positive. And the other thing too is, you know, getting up and public speaking is the hardest thing, the most difficult thing for most human beings to do. And the best way to sort of overcome that is to do it. It's like playing a sport. You know, you get the jitters. I talked to some of the front row here. They were the first students here. A lot of athletes, you know, you sort of get that sort of jitter in your stomach before a football game, before the tip-off of a basketball game, and before you speak. It's natural. It's human. You're not always going to be great. You're not always going to have a great game. I'm not always going to have a great debate. Some debates I'm going to really knock the cover off the ball and feel great, but you know, some debates I'm not. And you can't get discouraged with what you don't do well all the time. We're human beings. We're imperfect. So don't ever be afraid not to do it because you don't think you're going to be good enough. So I know there's a lot of athletes here, and if you're an athlete, you understand what I'm talking about. And even if you play the piano, Kirby. So if you get up in front of a crowd, I'm sure it's a very different feeling for you playing the piano. You miss a note. A lot of times you're the only one that's going to recognize that you missed that note. You know? So you just keep playing, you just keep doing it. Don't get discouraged about being afraid, you know, to fall or fail.
Who's got question 2?
Question?
Or what was question 2? I can't even remember.
What should we do about the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq?
Well, good question, because thank you, I did not cover that in my remarks. One of the things I think is very important for this country to do is become energy independent. And I think it's important to do because I think we need to end our dependency on foreign oil. And the reason I think we need to do that is because I think that our veterans and men and women of the military that serve this country and have served this country deserve our support at every level. And that begins with when we commit them to a military campaign, it's for the right reasons. And I don't think dependency on foreign oil is for the right reasons. And I don't think that nation building is for the right reasons. The only reason we should commit our men and women to a military campaign is if somebody or something or some entity or organization presents a national security threat to this country. So my concern with places like Afghanistan and Iraq is that maybe we didn't go in there initially for the right reasons. Certainly for Iraq that turned out to be the case. Afghanistan a little different. And again, folks, I am talking from what I would deem the cheap seats. Okay, I'm not a member of Congress. Members of Congress, I assume, are going to be privy to different information than we as members of the public are privy to. And I hope and assume that they are going to make intelligent choices based on that information that they have and that we may not have. But from the cheap seats, if you will, I don't think we should be in Afghanistan. We should get our troops home as quickly as possible. I think if we learn anything from our own history, that it's those types of wars are very difficult to fight and win. If we learned anything from Vietnam, the French were there before we were. We learned anything by the fact that the Russians were there long before we were and couldn't really accomplish whatever mission that they tried to. So I don't think sort of chasing folks into rock piles is going to be productive. I think our money is better spent to take advantage of the military, the technology rather that we have today, and become a more smarter, a more technologically advanced military that could maybe accomplish some of the goals before we commit human lives towards that end. So I think there's a whole bunch of aspects, starting with becoming energy independent, reviewing sort of how we are making use of intelligence and technologies to make our military smarter and more flexible, and the reasons with realistic goals that maybe can't be accomplished in the manner in which we'd like them.
Who had Ryan? Your question.
Alright. What should our government do to prevent civil war and genocide in Sudan following the January referendum for Southern Sudan independence? And as a member of Congress, how can you help develop and support an interagency genocide prevention strategy?
Wow.
Do you want to read it?
I'll speak in general first. Obviously, we take civil rights and human rights very seriously in this country. And it's something that we should be a world leader on by example, certainly, and to the extent that we can support that effort in other countries through diplomatic means, and support, whether that's through food or other international measures, we should do that. But again, committing military troops to areas and get involved in civil wars, I think long and hard about that before we do that. There's lots of ways you can encourage other countries to do the right thing by human beings, and to the extent that we can rely on some allies that maybe have different constitutions than we do in this country, and encourage the UN to play a more impactful role on situations like that. I think that's where we need to begin. And to the extent that works, great, and to the extent that it doesn't, go back to the drawing board and try to figure out some other methods of encouraging civil rights and human rights.
Yorgos, what question you got? Is it one of the ones we already did or
I have a
not?
question for you.
Yeah.
When are you going to register to vote?
Tomorrow.
All right, we inspired them.
Which one do you want?
Which one do you?
I don't know, actually